Hello everyone and welcome to a prequel of a video I made over some 4 years ago. What I mean by this is that this is a game from the Sinquefield Cup and it's Liren versus Magnus Carlsen. Now a lot of you have been saying in the previous videos that I made about Liren that if Magnus was still interested in playing classical and if he was to face Ding, that the result would be, well, Magnus coming up on top either by just drawing the classicals and then defeating Ding in the rapids or the blitz, or it wouldn't even be competitive. But what I would like to show you is something that Tarjei Svensson posted on Twitter. This is Magnus's rating performance over the years, ever since he became a world champion. Now, as you can see, he became a world champion in 2010 in 2013. This is well over that. This is since he was the highest rated player in the world since 2010. And every year his rating performance is over 2800. So 28.9, 28.40, 28.75, 28.75, 28.49, 28.29, 28.34, 28.07, 28.35, and then in 2019, which is Magnus's absolute best year, his rating performance is 28.89. So almost 2900 in classical chess, which is, which is mind-boggling. Then in 2020, 2815, then 2829, 2833, and now in 2023, 2787. So it's the first time since 2010, since Magnus became world champion, that his rating performance in classical chess is below 2800. He lost 6 games in total, which for him is quite a lot. But okay, in his defense, he did face a whole lot of lower-rated players. He played 2,500 players, he played 2,600 players, which a lot of the top players don't do, and they will not lose as much on rating, because if he loses a game to a 2,500, you know that it's very hard to be have a rating performance of 2,800 at the end of the year. And okay, the year still isn't over, but it is probably considered that Magnus will not be playing any more classical chess in 2023. So while it could change, for the moment it is below 2800. And what I wanted to show you is the game that Magnus played against Ding, where probably both Magnus and Ding were at their strongest. They played they played engine chess. They were like two engines. And that is 2019 Sinquefield Cup, where in the classical section of the Sinquefield Cup they drew their game. Then they went into the tie breaks, where the two rapid games ended in a draw, and then they went into a series of blitz playoffs, which means that they will play 2 blitz games. If it's a draw, 2 more blitz games. If it's a draw, it's then 2 more blitz games until they reach Armageddon. But everything was concluded in the first set of the 2 blitz games, and I've shown you the second game. I've called it the Immortal Playoffs game. For those of you who haven't seen it or haven't been following the channel in 2019, it's the first link in the description below, and it's a game you should watch before checking out this game, or you can check it out after you watch this game. But this is the first game that led to that Immortal Playoffs game. So let's check it out. Ding has the white pieces, and he opened with pawn to c4. He opened with the English opening, knight to f6 by Magnus, g3, and now pawn to e6. We have bishop to g2, and now pawn to d5, knight to f3, and now d captures on c4 by Magnus. We have queen to a4 with check. This is all very standard stuff, much like you would see today. Knight bd7, queen captures on c4, a6, and now queen back to c2. Of course, you are expecting b5, so c5 here, knight to c3, and now queen to c7. So they, of course, have to play very quickly as it's a blitz game. d4, and now c captures on d4, knight captures, and bishop to c5. We have knight to b3, and bishop back to d6. We have castles, and now rook to d1, and bishop to e5. We have bishop to e3, and knight to d5. Now offering a trade on d5, but for the moment it's impossible as the queen on c2 is undefended. So bishop captures on d5, e captures on d5, and now rook a to c1. Now the knight can move as the queen on c2 is defended. So knight to f6, adding a defender here, but not really, as knight captures on d5 lands. We have knight captures, rook captures, queen captures on c2, rook captures, and now bishop to f6, getting the bishop to safety. So here, Ding is up a pawn, but it's very, very hard to prove that in a blitz game. So let's see what happened here. Knight to c5, we have rook to e8, and now bishop to d4, offering a trade of dark square bishop, so bishop to e7, and now rook to e5, preventing the bishop from moving, as the rook here would be hanging. So f6, we have rook to e3, and now bishop to f5. Now the rooks are connected, and now the bishop can move. Rook to d2 by Ding, and now bishop captures on c5 for a very, very obvious reason, taking the knight for bishop. Rook captures on e8 with check, rook captures, and now bishop captures on c5. And what you can notice right away is that, yes, Magnus is down a pawn, but he was able to trade down into an endgame of opposite colored bishops. Yes, the rooks are still on the board, but if the rooks come off the board, then you know that, okay, being up a pawn in an opposite color bishop endgame, you will very likely be able to draw this. So what Ding will do is, of course, he will prevent Magnus from trading rooks, and what Magnus will do is, of course, try to trade rooks actively, unless he has a very active rook. Then, of course, he will remain have it remain on the board. So rook to c8 goes after the bishop, pawn to b4 defending, and now pawn to a5 going after the pawn here. a3, a captures, and now rook to c7, not allowing that pawn to be attacked. We have f3, and now rook to d7, offering a rook trade, and Ding, of course, if he wants to have winning chances, he will have to decline this. So rook to a2, because if Ding draws this, then he goes into the second blitz game where Magnus will have the white pieces, and then if he loses that, then Magnus wins the Sinquefield Cup 2019. Pawn to h5, we have king to f2, now bringing the king into the game, and Magnus does the same. King f7, we have pawn to h4, bishop to e6, and now rook to a8. We have pawn to b5, and now pawn to e4. Bishop to c4, the bishop is now nicely defended, and here Magnus just says, all right, yes, you're up a pawn, but here this structure will not move anytime soon, and you have 4 against 3 on the king's side. How are you going to make any progress here? So of course Ding has to try. King e3, rook d3 check, king f4, and now rook to d7. And this is the moment where Magnus gives Ding a chance. The way to play this is to actually go rook to b3. Simply move the rook from the bishop, and now bishop to e2 will be the threat. So Ding will not have time to go after the h-pawn with something like rook to h8, which is exactly what happened in the game. Magnus played rook to d7, and now rook to h8, going after the h5 pawn here, king to g6, and now pawn to g4. H captures on g6, H captures, king to f7, and now pawn to h5. Ding grabs more space on the king side here, controls the g6 square, and now bishop to b3 by Magnus. Sort of a waiting move. The way to keep this equal is pawn to g5 with check, where, okay, you are giving him a pass pawn, but if Ding goes forward, you can just checkmate him with bishop to e6 checkmate. So he will have to go backwards, king to e3, and then the game continues. It's not easy to make progress here. But Magnus instead went bishop to b3. Like I said, sort of a waiting move here, maybe with some ideas of later on going after the pawns here. But now pawn to e5 by Ding. g5 was also very strong. He played pawn to e5, f captures on e5, and now king captures on e5. We rook to d5 check, king to f4, and now rook to d1. Trying to annoy the white king with checks. So rook to f8 with check, king to e6, and rook to e8 with check. Now king f7, rook f8 check, king e6, and now king to g5. Ding has to go forward if he wants to avoid repetition. Bishop to c2, and now we have rook to e8 with check, king back to f7, rook e7 check, king g8, rook to b7, and rook to d5 now with check, king to h4, and now bishop back to d3, guarding the b5 pawn. And now pawn to g5. This is the best way to continue. Rook to d8, and now pawn to g6. And now you also have some issues of f7 and h7 being defended. And if the black rook moves from the back rank, then rook to b8 will be checkmate, or rook anywhere along the back rank. So bishop to c4, and now king to g5. Rook to d5 with check, king to f4, rook back to d8, and now bishop to d6. Possible because, like we said, if the rook moves, rook to b8 will be checkmate once you give up the rook. So instead, after bishop to d6, bishop to e2 by Magnus, and now, sorry, bishop to e2 by Magnus, going after the h5 pawn, and now, well, it might seem like Ding should defend the pawn. He actually doesn't. He goes bishop to e5 and attacks the g7 pawn. So he gives up the h5 pawn for the g7 pawn. Magnus captures it, and now king to g5. We have bishop to e2, and now rook captures on g7 with check. King to f8, and now rook to f7 with check. King to of course, you go here, you don't go under the mask of the bishop. King f6, bishop to c4, and now rook to h7. And here, both of them were below 10 seconds on the clock. They were playing an increment. The cleanest way to win this is rook to e7 check, but still it's not very easy. I'm going to show it because it's a lot of fun. King f8, now you play bishop c7. You go after the rook, and once the rook moves, you go for bishop to d6. Now you go for this, and after the king moves, you will play a check, and after the king moves, now bishop to e5, and this is now you know, impossible to solve for black. Rook e8, you will play bishop to d4, and if you persist to go after the bishop, now rook d7, threatening mate in 1, so rook to e8, and now rook to h7 with check, king to g8, and now rook to g7 with check, king f8, and bishop to c5, and now black has to part with the rook, and very soon checkmate will follow. So rook to h7 was played instead, also winning, but it will take more grinding. We have rook to d1 by Magnus. Now he wants to give all those necessary checks behind the black king. Rook to e7 check, king to d8, and now rook to a7. We have a rook to f1 check, king g7, king to e8, and now bishop to f6. We have rook to e1, again, just waiting for Ding to try and move the king to make progress, which he does, but now rook to h1 with check, king g7, and rook to e1. Magnus says, all right, you figure out a way out of this. I'm happy with a draw here, and then I'm going to take my chances with the white pieces. So rook b7, rook to e2, rook a7, rook to e1, rook to c7, and rook back to e2. So again, very drawish, but now rook to a7. Rook to c8 check was very, very strong, but okay. Players playing an increment here. Rook to a3, rook to e2, and now rook to a8 with check. King d7, king to f8, now again ready to push that pawn, but rook to f2, threatening to win the bishop, so king g7 and king to g2. Ding still unable to figure out a way out of this. Rook to d8 check was played, king to e6, rook to e8 with check, king to d7, and rook to e5. And here, believe it or not, the position is now a dead draw because Ding missed something when he played this rook to e5 move. Do you see it even without pausing the video? I'm sure you guys can. What did Ding miss here? Well, he missed bishop to d3. And Magnus also missed it because they were playing quite quickly. But yeah, bishop to d3, and now there's no way to actually win this game. Even if you block with the rook, you can simply capture, and after captures just go king e6. And the problem is, yes, you will be able to advance the pawn finally to g7, but it will not do any good. After g7, for example, king f7, and the king cannot help out with the advancement of the pawn, and the bishop also cannot help, as the pawn should queen on the light square. You have a dark square bishop, so you're not going to be able to do anything here. So instead, after rook e5, Magnus played king to d6, and now the position is once again objectively winning for Ding, but you know, with little time on the clock, that's not easy to achieve. Rook e3, king d7, rook to e7 with check, king to d6, and rook to e3, king d7, king to h6, and now rook to h2 with check. We have king to g7, rook to g2, and bishop to d4. We have rook to g4, bishop to c5, and now rook to g2. And he was in this position on move 87 that Magnus Carlsen lost on time. Yeah, that's what happened, and Ding got a win here, and then in the second game, Magnus had to win in order to tie the tiebreaks, to push it into the second half of the tiebreaks, to go for another set of blitz games, but that is where Ding absolutely shined with the black pieces. He sacrificed his queen for a spectacular double bishop checkmate. That's why I called it the Immortal Playoffs game, and if you haven't seen it still, first link in the description below. It's probably the greatest thing you will see today, maybe even, you know, the whole week, or even a month. I don't know how your month was, but it could very well be the greatest thing you will see for the entire month. Yeah, here, okay, Magnus lost on time, and even though the position is objectively winning, it's not easy to win this. Now, I mean, really soak this in. Here is where I want you to pause the video, as I haven't covered this 4 years ago when the game actually happened, because immediately game 2 was played and I was watching it live. I was having a lot of fun. And then when I saw game 2, that Immortal Playoffs game, no one really cared about this game anymore. But it's really tricky how to win this. So yeah, feel free to pause the video and try to figure out a winning plan here for Ding while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on being a true student of the endgame. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, well, while many moves are possible here, you can go Rook e4, Rook e5. The strongest way to play this is Rook to e7 with check. And once the king moves, doesn't really matter where, you're going to play Rook to a7. Now, what's the idea behind Rook to a7? It's a very tricky maneuver. Where the bishop and the rook kind of hold the black king here. The black king only has these two squares, and you don't really care what the black king does. Point is that now you will be able to move your king, as if rook captures on g6, then rook to a6 check will win the rook. So that's the free maneuver. And now, after, let's say, rook to g3, you will play king to f8. And of course, now if captures, you're just going to play rook to a6 check and win the rook. But if, let's say, bishop to e6, so now if rook to a6 check, you will have the bishop blocking, so you don't have to worry about it. Rook captures and g6 is happening. Now you play rook to a6 check, and after king to d5, you go king to g7. You defend your pawn one more time, and now you play whatever black plays. Let's say rook to f3, you will play rook to b6. You go after the pawn, and there is no way to defend the pawn. So you were using everything on the board, the pass pawn, the weird positioning of the king and the rook to actually win the b5 pawn. And then your b4 pawn will be able to advance and win the game. Problem is that you can't defend. If bishop to d7, rook to d6 check just wins the bishop. If you try anything else, let's say rook to g3, you might be interested in, let's say, bishop captures on b5, then you're going to go here and win this pawn. Here, king to f6 is actually very strong, because after rook to f3 check, you will go king to e7, and the bishop is still hanging. So once the bishop moves, now you play g7, and now after rook to g3, king f7, and rook to f3 check, you will block with rook to f6. And now after bishop to e6 check, you will move the king, and now after rook to g3, again stopping queening, you will play king to f8. And now finally, after a rook move or something, you will play rook captures on e6 with check, rook captures on e6, and after you capture g8 queen, rook captures, king captures, and now you will simply win this. The king will go over to the queen side, pick up the b5 pawn, and then advance this pawn to victory. So that's how you do it. Yeah, after rook to b6, there's really not much else. You either defend and lose the bishop, or you try to defend it this way, and you're gonna lose it that way. So yeah, it was possible to win this, but you've seen how long it took. Ding was winning for like 40 moves, and he couldn't do it. Magnus was just defending so well, and with little time on the clock, it's just not easy to do it. But it's something that I wanted to show you, as there's a lot of discussion, like if Magnus was really interested in playing Ding, everyone's like, yeah, but if Magnus like has a good day and if he's playing his best, then of course no one has a chance. But Ding actually played Magnus at his best. Objectively, 2019 was Magnus's best. If you're considering rating performance, 2889. That's almost 2900. I mean, that's and Ding dominated him. He drew the classical game, he drew the two rapid games, and then he won the two blitz games, which I really wanted to show you, but I've already shown you the Immortal Playoffs game. First link in the description below, like maybe even the best thing you will see this year. Do check it out, quite amazing. And if you guys want, I don't know, since it's an old video, it's only made at 30 frames per second. If you guys have, are struggling watching that, I could remake it. I don't mind. So, either write, remake or with like a new version, or even just like this video. I never care about likes or anything, and I think they're pretty much meaningless, for your videos, but we could use them as a sort of a voting mechanism if we really need it at times. So yeah, if you really want me to do it, you can even like this video, as all of my videos get the same amount of likes. So if I see like sort of a spike, then I'll know you guys are interested in that. So yeah. Maybe that's also something we could do. But yeah, just something I wanted to show you. So this is a prequel that's been 4 years long overdue. Hope you enjoyed that. I would like to thank David Gasparian, Sashi Darpita Purapu, Desert Sand Software, AJS 3TB, and more Ding Games. Thank you for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check two of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.